Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare I'm singing it wrong. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Can I sing how I want to sing? Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare
Nandu. 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 Wait. Wait.
Okay, let us stop it right now and get organized for Gaura Arti. And you see from next week, Saturday, we come here. What time you want to get your legs on Sundays?
I usually come at 5. Yeah. I don't.
I'm talking about Sunday feast.
Yeah, 5.
5 men. What are we talking about? Like what time you all came into this location? Nobody knows?
No, it's the first day we come here.
what time you came?
Sunday feast, like after Sunday school. Not now,
Oh.
after Sunday feast.
You walk out. You. What went on here today?
Today we were all cooking from like 1, so we were here early already.
Okay, and you only try to come here every Sunday?
No.
Okay, I come here every Sunday
Yeah.
between
4.
4 and 4:30. Anybody want to join in the kirtan? Please
Yeah.
come. Okay? So the evening after class,
Yeah.
kirtan. I know Mukunda
Yeah.
set up. I don't know if it have been done already.
He didn't do it yet, but like he's going to.
Okay. So that goes on until 8 o'clock. But the kirtan will go on when he comes by here later on, because I know Akandana, they're having a program there. So, do you want to, can you want to do 10 minutes kirtan? You don't want to?
Why should I?
Okay, then 10 minutes, come and do 10 minutes, because, okay?
Yeah, go downstairs.
Hey, another devotees. These instruments, you can see anyone putting instruments anywhere on the floor. Tell them we don't do that here. Okay? There's a basket, put it on a mat. Everybody know about these things? Okay? Please go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
The soft part of it before getting into the fancy part of it, which a lot of us do it if you don't know, right? You want me to keep them? Mridanga players, guitar players. Listen, she's the leader. You are not the leader of the Kirtan or the Mridanga. Listen to what she's doing. Is that making a lot of sense? Okay, carry on.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, okay.
Let me get the feel of it. Let us go fast. Hare Krishna. Let's go.
Oh, sorry.
Okay? Let us go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That comes in sometimes. You see, right now, let's go peaceful. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Now just listen to what you really hear.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So we get into Gora Arti now. So let's all stand and place those hands somewhere.
Ardu, you said you keep track of time. You said you keep track of time. At least you didn't go downstairs to eat chocolate.
Hare Krishna.
How'd you guys finish the call?
Hey, Anmol, let us, whatever we say, let us be quiet or peaceful, even though the other is okay? Okay, let us set up. Hare Krishna. Is there a good Mridanga here? He says set up next time. So take it put it back way.
Do you want this or not?
You're going to use this one. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya 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 Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Kiba Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Arati Kashoba Kiba Jaya Janavitatavani Jagamanalobaja Jagajanamanalobaja Dakini Taichan Bamigarahara Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatra Dharanika Bosi Achi Gorachan Ratna Simasane Arati Korena Brahma Adideva Gane Arati Naragara Adi Adi Kore Shamaradulayan Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Ghosh Adigayan Shankar Baje Kanta Baje Baje Karatala Madhura Medanga Baje Paramarasala Gorangela Roti Shobha Jaga Janamana Loba Gorang Gorang
Gange Arote Shoba Jaga Janamana Loba Shankha baje, ganta baje, madhur, madhur, madhur baje, Shankha. Shankha baje, ganta baje, Madhu, 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 Baje, Sadhu, Baho, Koti Chandra, Jene, Vadana, Yudvala, Baho. Gala de se banamala, Kori jala mala. Siva Sukhana Radha Premi Gada Gada Siva Bhakati Vinoda Deke Gaurara Sampada Bhakati Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam, Krishna, Krishna, Pahi Mam, Ram Raghava, Ram Raghava. Ram Raghava Rakshaman Ram Raghava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahi Mam Krishna Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Presaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Vaskyatare Satarine Namaste Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Sri Radhe, Jaya. Jaya Radha, Shama Sundara Radha, Shama Sundar Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha. Jaya Radha, Shama Sundara Radha, Shama Sundara Sri Radhe, Jaya. Jaya Radha, Shama Sundara Radha, Shama Sundara Sri Radhe, Jaya. Jaya Radha, Shama Sundara Radha, Shama Sundara Sri Radhe, Jaya. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Gaura Premanande, Haribol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivacharya. Asata Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Shama Sundara ki jai. Sri Radha Madhava ki jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories to assembly devotees. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. How many of them?
So quiet. Roji, can you sit right next to me?
You can sit. Can I start? Namaste Narasimhaya. Pranadana Dadaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shiratankanakanaya. Ito Narsimha Parata Narsimha. Yato yato yamitato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha Rid Bahe Narsimha Ridaye Narsimha. Narasingamadim Sharana Prabhade. Tava Kara Kamala Varena Khan Adbhuta Shinga Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsingadev, Jaya Narsingadev. Jaya Bhakta Pranay, Jaya Bhakta Pranay, Jaya Bhakta Pranay, Jaya Bhakta Pranay. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitya Gaura Haribo. Nrsingadev ki jai, Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Hari Hari Bol.
Take this harmony about it. I know. Oh. Sorry, thanks. Can you put it back in the corner?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dear devotees, can you all move to this side? Everybody move to this side. And ladies, dear ladies, can you please move to this side? And men on that side. And those who cannot sit on the floor, please use the chairs. And please leave a space in front of Srila Prabhupada so that your back is not turned to Srila Prabhupada. Ladies standing near the door and talking, please come and sit down. And please close the door, please. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. That's much like it. Okay. So, if there anyone here for the first time to this temple? Nobody for the first time? Okay. All right. So, today's Sunday Feast lecture will be given by His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj. And the topic is Meditations on Srimati Radharani. And as you all know, His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj is one of the senior disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And he has over 50 years of experience in practicing Bhakti Yoga. And he has traveled all over the world and preaching the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And under his care, so many preaching programs have developed all over the world. And we are very fortunate to have Maharaj here today. And for the past few days, he has been speaking about the glories of Srimati Radharani. And as you all know, we are waiting for the appearance day celebration of Srimati Radharani on September 3rd. So today Maharaj is continuing that same topic. And once again, the topic is Meditations on Srimati Radharani. Since Maharaj is not here, maybe you could do a little kirtan.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Tuja Diyari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunati Ravanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivanadari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya 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 Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Nitai Gora Hari Bol Haribol, Nitai Gaura Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, Premanande.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Yamana Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chadi Yamana Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Bihari. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Harivedakacharya Astatarasatasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. Well, it's not Radhastami yet, but it feels like it's my Radhastami already. At least for me, speaking, now this is class number 6 on Srimati Radharani exclusively. And we're still a week away from Radharani's appearance day. Got a head start. Is there anybody here that's a little newish and needs an introduction to who is Srimati Radharani? Yes? I thought that might be the case. Okay. Well, there she is, right on the altar, up on the upper ledge. There's Madhava, and next to Madhava is Radharani. In part 1, we discussed kind of thoroughly, but here we go, little beginning part. Radharani is like the sunshine is to the sun. Radharani is to Krishna. They're inseparable. Sun and sunshine are inseparable. And yet you have different terms for them. Radha, as the Shakti, or the energy, she has female form, and Krishna is the energetic, has male form, but they're actually one entity, the sun and the sunshine. Just going back to our first class. The first class, there was this nice verse. It has 2 parts, keeping it simple. There's a babbling child somewhere in the room here. Two parts. This is an introductory verse. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladani Shakti Asmad Ekatmanava Pibhuvi Pura Deha. Deha means body. Veda means distinct. So this one entity, Radha Krishna, is eternally manifest in 2 forms, but one entity in 2 forms, energy and energetic. One entity in 2 forms. So specifically, Radharani is the manifestation of the internal potency, one aspect of the internal potency of Krishna. What's that mean? Krishna has his external energy, that's this place. Krishna has his marginal energy, that's us, the living entity. And then Krishna has his spiritual energy. And Radharani is one aspect of his spiritual energy, specifically the pleasure potency of his spiritual energy. It's a spiritual science, so here we go. Have you heard the phrase Satchit Ananda? Chit Ananda? Yes? Yeah, once or twice, okay. Sat means eternality or existence. That's a feature of the spiritual world. It eternally exists. Chit, Sat and Chit go well together. Chit means all knowledge. And Ananda, that's Radharani, pleasure. Satchit Ananda. Radharani is that Ananda portion, or the pleasure potency portion of Krishna's spiritual energy, the spiritual world. That she has a form, and she has a name, and she has qualities, and she has pastimes, she has loving exchanges. She's fantastic. So we're honoring the fantastic Srimati Radharani. next week is her appearance day, on the 8th day of the waxing moon. And so we've been hearing a lot about her. In the spiritual world, so now there are pastimes that are manifest in this world, but in the spiritual world, sometimes those pastimes are manifest here in this world also. There are 3 aspects of Radharani from which those aspects expand. And from her, from Radharani, expands the gopis. You heard of the gopis? Gopis? Gopis are Krishna's appearance. In the early part of his appearance, he was in Braja, or Vrindavan, where the main activity in Vrindavan is agriculture and cow protection. They really like cows. And so there's cowherd boys, because Krishna was only there till he was 12. And then there's cowherd girls. So the boys are gopas and the girls are gopis. So the gopis, they're expansions of Srimati Radharani, the spiritual world, and then they appear in this world for pastimes. There's the goddess of fortune in the spiritual world. Aside from where Krishna resides, there's other spiritual planets. And the Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is Radharani's expansion. And the queens, later Krishna left Vrindavan, he went to Dwaraka and he married many queens. And those queens are expansions of Radharani. They're her expansions, and she's the source of those expansions. So she has a very important function in the spiritual realm. But now coming back to what we've been discussing, that's the tattva. Let's go to this slide. What I'm doing right now is talking about number 1 on this slide. It's the tattva, the truths about Radha tattva. She is the spiritual potency, the pleasure portion of the spiritual potency of the source of everything. And she has a wonderful personality, wonderful qualities. So we heard about her appearance, we heard about her childhood pastimes. What's that noise? Is it a meeting going on back here or something? There's a class going on there. Really?
Yeah, because they don't have enough space downstairs.
Oh. Thanks for letting me know, because I was wondering what's going on here. Okay, it's a class going on. Okay. Here's a family tree. See at the top? That's Radharani's picture. She had a brother and she had a sister. That gives their names. She had a father and a mother. And she has relatives on her father's side and relatives on her mother's side. And it's a nice chart. But she, before she, her pastimes became fully manifest, she had deep, deep, deep affection for her mother and father, Kirtida and Rishabhanu. And as we hear about her, naturally we're hearing about Krishna because they're inseparable, right? Just like sun and sunshine are inseparable. So here's a nice statement from Krishna book. Krishna book is the summary of Krishna's pastimes. One can very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes, which means also hearing Radharani and Krishna's pastimes together. And this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Many of you know Bhagavad Gita. One verse And Bhagavad Gita is spoken twice. That means it's important, right? And there's 4 parts to that one verse. Manmana, always think of Krishna. Bhava mad bhakto, become my devotee. And if you become your devotee, Krishna's devotee, you're going to think of Krishna. And if you're thinking of Krishna, you're going to become Krishna's devotee. Madhyaji, you worship Krishna. Mam namaskuru, we pay obeisances unto Krishna. Those 4 things. And the essence of those 4 things is accomplished by what we're doing right now, just hearing and remembering the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and Radharani. And a very nice example of that, some of you like to read Prabhupada's books, and in chapter 35 of Krishna book, or in chapter 35 of Canto 10 Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear a whole chapter of the gopis. Remember the gopis, the young cowherd girls? The gopis, when Krishna left to go out taking care of the cows, the gopis would watch him enter into the forest. There's one verse where they're watching as the dust, they would watch Krishna enter the forest as long as they could see, even the dust from the hooves of the cows as they're going into the pasturing ground in the forest area. And they're so absorbed in remembrance of Krishna. The next 16 pairs of verses are the discussion between, they're meditating on Krishna's flute and how that flute song is impacting the trees and the birds and all living entities, and they're totally absorbed in what Krishna is doing all day long. They start having conversations with Mother Jasoda, who's in anxiety because he's late. So they go to Mother, they're just all day long. Even he's not there before them. They're immersed in thought of Krishna. It's really a fantastic chapter. And that's Krishna consciousness. They're very Krishna conscious young girls. They're very absorbed in manmana, thinking of Krishna. They've already become Krishna's devotee. So I'm going to share, as you saw number 6 on that list before, there's more. That's kind of like miscellaneous. I can have fun and go in different directions. So the more is going to start with Tulsi Vivaha. Now some of you have been around a while and you know the common story about Tulsi Vivaha. I bet you'd like to know what the Vaishnava story. Here's the Vaishnava story. One of the names of Tulsi Devi is Vrinda Devi. And so Radharani was very much appreciating Vrinda Devi's kindness and making so many arrangements of pastimes with Krishna. Radharani was really appreciating her. And so she brought Lalita and Vishaka, her 2 principal gopi friends, and she thought, let's have a nice festival for Vrinda Devi. And like little girls might have a play where they're playing, let's have this play where Vrinda Devi is going to marry Krishna. Wouldn't that be nice? They're little girls, Krishna's little boy. They have a little play, a little fun. So they made an arrangement for a little sitting place, special, like a little throne where they could sit. And as they were sitting, Vishaka, one of Radharani's dearest friends, sat beside Vrinda Devi in a playful mood, full of laughter, taking the role of a priest. And the other, Lalita, she began chanting mantras for invoking marriage. And one of the procedures in Vedic marriage is the exchange of garlands. So Radha herself exchanged flower garlands between Krishna and Vrindadevi. And this wonderful wedding ceremony, like little boys and girls might do, was performed. And everything was just fine. Fun, laughter, little children playing, until they tied the knot. And when Radharani personally tied the knot between Vrindadevi and Krishna, she panicked. She got up and started to run, but she couldn't run because her sari was tied to Krishna's dhoti. And she fell, and she's crying, and the other girls are laughing and laughing and laughing. So that's our Vaishnava description of Tulsi Vivaha. So next time Tulsi Vivaha comes around in the Vaishnava calendar, you know how to celebrate it, and how to glorify it, and how to remember it. The other one is, don't remember that other one. Now, this is a 201 little segment. There's some teachings. You see in the center of this slide, there's Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is a two-part book written by Jiva Goswami. And here's the background of Gopal Champu. Krishna returned to Vrindavan. Long time, but Krishna, when he was just 10 years, 8 months, according to our acharyas, he was taken from Vrindavan back to Mathura. He did many things in Mathura. He stayed there for approximately, it's not really clear exactly, but approximately 25 years. And then the rest of his life was spent in Dwarka. But towards the end of his life, so 125 years, this is the end of the previous yuga, people lived longer. And when all the demons were killed, the last of the demons, because he didn't want to go back to Vrindavan, knowing that if demons were still around and he went back to Vrindavan, they'd harass and torment the residents of Vrindavan, so he didn't go back. And they were feeling separation, and he was feeling separation from them. But after killing Dantavakra, he went back. He went to Vrindavan for 2 months, and while he was there in Vrindavan for 2 months, he got together again with Radharani and Nanda and Jasoda and everybody. It was a big, happy get-together. And they had transcendental exchanges and so on. Now this Gopal Champu is narrated in such a way that at the end of those 2 months, what did Krishna do? Well, he did 3 things. But one of those 3 things is his eternal associates that had joined his pastimes from the spiritual world, he sent them back to the spiritual world. It's one of the things he did. I won't get into it too much because there's newer people and it's too confusing. Krishna himself returned to the spiritual world, and Krishna also expanded himself and went back to Dwarka to wrap up his Dwarka pastimes and do some other things. So back in Krishna Loka, Narada Muni paid a visit. And Narada Muni had 2 students. You see them pictured here on either side of the Gopal Champa book cover. Their names, Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta. And they were requested by Nanda Maharaj to narrate Krishna's pastimes on earth. So from beginning to the end, Gopal Champu Part 1 and Part 2 narrates Krishna's pastimes from beginning to end. And at the end of Part 1, there's a very interesting thing that we don't find anywhere else. Well, we don't find most other places, is Krishna marries the gopis. Surprise! Now, That's not described in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not ordinarily described in other literatures, but it's in Gopal Champu. And there's something similar. You see this other book on the right side, Ujjvala Nilamani. What's that one? That's written by Rupa Goswami. You can say it's part 2 of Nectar Devotion, or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he also says, he writes, Rupa Goswami writes, that there's a particular Gandharva type of marriage that by which Krishna married the gopis. Not normally spoken about, because it's not something that's understood. There are some details which circumstance at a Sunday lecture doesn't afford itself to. So we'll do that another time in a smaller class, smaller venue. One of those books by Rupa Goswami is translated in English as Nectar Devotion. The Sanskrit is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And in one part of Nectar Devotion, there's a pastime with Radha and Krishna called Laughing Ecstasy. And the Laughing Ecstasy example found in Rupa Goswami's book is pictured here. One time, Krishna made himself appear just like Abhimanyu. Who's Abhimanyu? Oh, Abhimanyu is a so-called husband of Radharani. What's that so-called husband of Radharani mean? Well, there's different ways of understanding the so-called husband of Radharani, but we'll just leave it at that. Because newer people get spun out. So-called husband. So-called husband. And the home of Radharani with her so-called husband, Abhimanyu, was in Yavat. Some of you may have visited Vrindavan. If you haven't, may you all one day visit Vrindavan. And I'll be taking a group of devotees to Vrindavan during Kartik. One of the places we're going to go is Yavat. So you can remember some nice pastimes in Yavat. This is one of them from Nectar Devotion. So Abhimanyu was also, his occupation was taking care of cows. He was out taking care of the cows. So one day, Krishna showed up, looking just like Abhimanyu. Just like Abhimanyu. And then it came time for Abhimanyu to come home from herding the cows. So Krishna said to Radharani's mother, she's the one with that broom in her hand, watch out. Krishna's going to come dressed just like me, looking just like Abhimanyu. Don't let him in. So Jatila, trusting that it was her son that was giving this advice, when Abhimanyu came home, she took a broom and started smacking him. Get out of here, you imposter. And he thought his mother had gone mad. And Krishna was watching the fun with laughter, happy laughter, smiling laughter. It's a particular rasa that is experienced in this world, but in relation to Krishna, it's a transcendental rasa. So now we're going to go on to another pastime. Here's Jatila. One time Radharani returned home forgetting that she was wearing Krishna's yellow cloth around her shoulders. When Radharani's mother-in-law Jatila saw this yellow dhoti, yellow cloth, instead of the customary cloth of another color, she sensed foul play and angrily stared at her daughter-in-law. At that time, Vishaka tried to protect her friend Radharani by speaking the following words to Jatila. And the following words somehow didn't make it onto this next slide. But the following words were something to the effect, why are you looking like that? You know, we were having some fun and we threw some turmeric on Radharani and so her cloth turned yellow. What's wrong with you? Why are you looking like that? because the mother-in-law was always suspicious that her daughter-in-law was up to mischief with Krishna. So there's another nice pastime related to this. No, if you missed the first 5 and you're a new person, it's probably like, what's going on here? But here we go. This is part 6. Here's a painting. Some of you know Prahlad. Prahlad Nrsimha made this painting for me. It's a painting of Purnamasi. And Abhimanyu went to consult Purnamasi. She's like the elder Brahmani in Braja, and everyone looked up to her and just consulted her with everything, which was very convenient so she could control Krishna's pastimes. Abhimanyu requested Purnamasi's permission to leave Vrindavan. I'm hearing all these stories about Radharani meeting with Krishna, and it's not nice. I don't like hearing these stories. So I want to move to Mathura. I want to leave Vrindavan. And Purnamasi made very light of it. She said, these are rumors, people make rumors, you know how village talk is. Don't take it seriously. I'll tell you what, if you can catch Radharani red-handed, meeting with Krishna, then I give you permission, you can leave Vrindavan. He said, very good. I'll catch her red-handed. I'm sure I'm catch her red-handed. Then he had a second request. Because her so-called husband, Abhimanyu, was a little on the materialistic side, and he said, my dear friend, Govardhan Malla, his wife worships Gauri, and he's become rich. So can you give your permission for Radharani to worship Gauri? Who's Gauri? Gauri is a form of Lord Shiva's consort. So he said, very good. Yeah, Radharani can worship Gauri. So that word got to Krishna, and Abhimanyu sent Radharani to go to a place called Gaurikund, where there's a Gauri deity in the little Gauri temple, and Krishna intercepted her on the way. And as Krishna was intercepting her on the way, he was teasing her, she was carrying water, and he was making fun, and she was trying to ignore Krishna because he was not speaking nice. So they had some exchange like that. But Krishna had another plan. It was just a change of mood, Leela. So what did Krishna do? Krishna went with his little Brahmin friend named, what was Krishna's Brahmin friend's name? Madhumangal. So Krishna went to the Gauri temple with Madhumangal, and when he reached there, already Radharani and her gopis, they were worshipping Gauri. And when Krishna got there, just as Krishna got there, Abhimanyu and his mother Jatila showed up to catch Radharani mixing, because there was a report that went to Abhimanyu and Jatila. Krishna's with Radharani at the Gauri temple. You better go quick, you'll catch him red-handed. So they went, ready to catch Krishna red-handed and Radharani red-handed. So what did Krishna do? No problem. Krishna stood in front of the Gauri deity and manifested this amazing Gauri deity form. And Radharani was worshipping Gauri in so many different ways. And when Abhimanyu saw Radharani actually worshipping this Gauri deity that was actually Krishna, but not behind Krishna was the Gauri deity, he honored his dear Srimati Radharani for worshipping one of his favorite deities, Gauri, so nicely. And everything then became very nice. And you see in the front there, that older lady, that's Jatila. She was very bewildered. And down in the front, there you see Madhu Mangal with his ladus. He was chanting all these mantras and worshipping Gauri very nicely, and Abhimanyu was now very happy that Radharani was worshipping Gauri, and so they left. And after they left, Krishna left the pose of the Gauri deity and came out, just like this. Here's another painting of Radharani and the gopis worshipping the Gauri deity. Now, some of you who have been around for a while, you know that one of the favorite places for Radharani to go and perform pastimes was at Surya Kund. Yes? Some of you are nodding. So, Radharani was, her worshipable deity was Surya Dev. We're going to hear a little bit about that one. She regularly worshipped Surya Dev, the sun god. And this was a practical, really cool meeting place to meet with Krishna. And we're going to hear some pastimes of her meeting with Krishna at Surya Kund. Here's where it is. Here's a map of Vrindavan. You see those two arrows at the top. Well, the arrow at the lower of the two arrows is the top of Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill runs north and south like that. And so there's Radha Kund. That arrow is pointing to Radha Kund. And the upper arrow is pointing to where her marriage place was, in Yavat. That's where Yavat is. Now, you're going to see another arrow that comes shooting out. Oh, that's come from the top down. That's Yavat. Is that right? Yeah, that's Yavat. And, the middle one is Varsana. And the upper one is above Govardhan Hill, and that's Surya Kund. Sorry about that. Is it clear? We'll do it again. The vertical one is picturing where her marriage place was, Yavat. And where her ancestral home is Varsana. That's the one going horizontal on the upper part. And then there's Surya Kund. And Surya Kund is in the northern area above Govardhan Hill. So Radharani would regularly go there for worshipping Surya Dev. And why did Radharani worship the sun god? And one explanation is given that this particular Surya bestows Krishna prema unto those who have no material desire. So she wanted Krishna prema. Knowing that this particular place, Surya Kund, is so special like this, it bestows Krishna prema, the spiritual master or the guru of Jagannath Das Babaji, some of you are newer. Who's Jagannath Das Babaji? He is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master's father's spiritual master. So he's in our line of disciplic succession, Jagannath Das Babaji, and he stayed here at Surya Kund for a good part of his life, along with Madhusudana Das Babaji. And you see there's the sitting place where they would sit, and above their head, you see that thing kind of like embedded in the wall? That's Radharani's crown. Look at that. A mark where the crown of Radharani fell onto a Shila, and it made this mark. So they worship it at Surya Kund. During his lifetime, this is a painting of Jagannath Das Babaji, who lived for a very, very long time. And he was eager to worship a deity of Lord Chaitanya. So Ishan, his disciple, made an arrangement for a deity that looked golden. So he became known as Sonar Gauranga. In the middle of the night, some robbers came. They thought it was gold, and they tried to steal his deity. But something happened. They got chopped on their way trying to steal the deity, and they ran. So Jagannath Das Babaji decided it's not safe to keep a deity like this that people think is gold, so he sent it to Vrindavan town. And today, there's a temple where Sonar Gauranga is being worshipped. We're going to visit that place, hopefully, when we take our visit to Vrindavan. Here's the altar, one of the altars at the Surya Kund temple. No, excuse me, this is the Sonar Gauranga deity, and a very close-up of the deity, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and the interesting pose of their hands. And this is a water pot that Jagannath Das Babaji used, so they keep it there. And following Jagannath Das Babaji, Gaurkishore Das Babaji also spent some time at Surya Kund before he came to stay with Bhakti Siddhanta in Bhaktivedanta Thakur in Mayapur. Here's the Surya temple room. Here's a close-up of the Surya deity. You see two images of the sun on either side. Surya Narayan, this is one outfit. Here's another deity outfit. And look down below on the right, it's deities of Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And on the other side is the deity of Radha Kishore. On another day, this is a very close-up photograph of the deity at Surya Kund. It's hard to get these photographs, I can tell you. So there's some history behind the manifestation of this deity, and I think you'd appreciate hearing the history of this deity. It's connected with the pastime of Radha and Krishna. And this pastime of Radha and Krishna is described in the following way. One time when Krishna was enjoying pastimes with Radharani, he was so much absorbed in enjoying his pastimes with Radharani that he didn't even notice that his flute fell from his waistband. But Lalita recognized, and she picked up the flute, and she started having this conversation with the flute, saying, "Who do you think you are? You're hard. You got lumps and you got bumps, and you're always tasting the lips of Krishna. This isn't fair. I'm going to teach you a lesson." And so what did she do? She took the flute and hid the flute in her braid. Now this is a nice painting. This is Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's disciple. I asked him, this is what he came back with. This is Lalita hiding Krishna's flute in her braid, and by her side is Vishaka. And on the other side, Chitra Devi Tungavidya and Champakalata, and on the other side, Induleka Sudevi and Rangadevi. So that's the Ashtasakis. And here's somebody else made an attempt, but it's not as good. So Krishna didn't even notice. He was so absorbed in his pastimes with Radharani, he didn't even notice he didn't have his flute. Pretty unusual. The next day, they were enjoying some pastimes by the side of Radhakund. And they were playing some gambling game. Now, I don't know what the gambling game is, but I've seen this crisscross thing every time they show some gambling game, so it's some kind of standard gambling game. That they were having fun by the side of Radhakund. That's Radhakund in the background, by the way. And Radharani won every time. And the first time, I can't remember the details, but the first time there was some, Krishna had to, I forget. I'm unprepared and I'm in anxiety that I'm unprepared, but she gambled something that was dear to Krishna and she accepted it. Second time, he gambled something and she accepted it. The third time, he gambled his flute and he lost. So when he went looking for his flute, and he couldn't find his flute, anywhere. And so he asked, Madhu Mangal, do you know some mantras? Can you find out where my flute is? And he said, sure, I know some mantras, and I'll do some meditation. And he said, one of the gopis has your flute. So Krishna said, I want to search all of you. Well, we don't have your flute, we don't have your flute. But Lalita had the flute in her braid. So as he was searching and searching each of the gopis, someone comes running into the scene saying, look out, Jatila is coming, looking for Radharani. And so they all scrambled. They interrupted the pastime. And these things are out of order, but that's okay. Here's Surya Kund, what it looked like. I'm sorry, it's out of order. Shuffling them around. This is what today's Surya Kund looked like. There's a nice temple. Here's the Kund itself with some nice water buffalo swimming around. And a little pier that goes out into the Kund. Here's in rainy season. And it's a big Kund, very big. This place is so celebrated. It's one of the places that appears in Bhakti Ratnakar. Some of you have been around for a while, you know what that is. New people, it's a book written by someone who lived after Lord Chaitanya's life, and he's taking some devotees on a tour of places. When he gets to Surya Kund, here's what he writes. Here is Surya Kund. Just see the deity of Surya Dev situated in the Surya Mandir within this forest. In great happiness, Radharani with her Sakis came here to worship Surya Dev. Krishna himself became the priest and the enjoyer and enjoyed performing the puja. The deity of Surya Dev is very merciful and gives love of Krishna. That's why Radharani would go there. Who can describe his glories and who will worship him? I worship Surya Dev, who is the father of Yamuna and the destroyer of all diseases. He bestows attachment to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and therefore he is the basis of all auspiciousness. So it's a celebrated place, very special place. And again, this is out of order. Sorry, folks. It's out of order. It's all scrambled. Here's a little interruption. That's Jatila again. Remember her? Abhimanyu's mother and Radharani's mother-in-law. My dear Padma, that's one of the gopis. From where have you come? Mother Jatila. I've come from Govardhan Hill. Where are the gopis? Have you seen them? They're in front of the sun god's temple. Jatila, such a long time has passed. Why has Radharani not come here yet? Padma, Krishna stopped her as she was coming here. Please go now. Find her and angrily attack her. That's one of the competitor gopis, Padma. So now it's scrambled. I'm going back. This narration that you've been hearing is from Govinda Lilamrita. Sorry, it's all scrambled. It's all scrambled. So I don't know what to do. What happened in this Surya pastime, there were three groups, Jatila and Katila. Jatila is Radharani's mother, and her daughter Katila were off in a huff because they heard that Krishna was meeting with Radharani again. The gopis hurried off to Surya Kund to get to Surya Kund before the worship would begin. And when Jatila and Katila were on their way, Krishna made a disguise. He appeared in front, along the path, bumped into Jatila and Katila. Where are you off to? We're going to Surya Kund. We're going to make sure Radharani is doing her Surya Puja. Krishna was in the disguise of a Brahmin, and then with his Brahmin friend. And she said, do you know how to do puja for Surya Dev? He said, sure. Madhu Mangal said, we don't do any puja for ladies. We're very strict brahmacharis. And she was, oh, please, I'll give you nice remuneration, and please do this. So Krishna nudged him and said, let's go. So they went together. So that's, now she's looking to see if Krishna's meeting, if Radharani's meeting with Krishna, but she's accompanying with Krishna in Madhu Mangal to do some puja. So Krishna said, before you do the puja, you have to take bath in the Surya Kund. So as they went to take bath, Krishna manifested himself as the Surya deity. This deity was manifest by Krishna. And when they came back, after doing their bathing, there was some nice discussion. There's details and details. It's a very nice pastime. But the end of it was the puja was finished. Jatila was very happy, and she wanted to give some donation, some remuneration to the priest. So she turned to Radharani, please give something. So as Radharani was preparing to give something, from her braid fell Krishna's flute. Because Lalita had passed the flute on to Radharani, and Radharani had the flute. So Jatila said, wait a minute, Radharani, in your braid is Krishna's flute? You better have a good explanation. She said, oh yeah, I have a good explanation. I was by the side of Govardhan Hill, and come bouncing down Govardhan Hill was Krishna's flute. So I thought, this is the good opportunity. I'm going to take it and go throw it in the river Jamuna next time I go there. And Radharani's mother said, oh, very good, I'm going there today. I'll take the flute. And she took Krishna's flute, and I'll throw it in the Jamuna River. But Krishna wanted his flute back. So Krishna said, even better, I'm going to Mathura today, so I'll take the flute and dispose of it, no problem. So Krishna got his flute back. And the Surya Puja was completed, and Radharani's name was cleared. And Jatila was very happy, and it has a story with a very happy ending. There's details, and I'm looking at the clock, and the clock says no time for details. It's a wonderful narration. It's from the writing, one of the writings of Krishnadas Kaviraj, whose painting you saw, image you saw before. There's Krishnadas Kaviraj. And Govinda Lilamrita is very, very detailed, very wonderful narration. And it's already 6:30. So I'm on slide 57 of 72. So we're not going to finish. But maybe we'll do some tomorrow evening. And those of you that aren't able to attend, you can try to attend online. We'll get things a little bit more in order. Kind of been a busy weekend. My apologies to the newer people, because it's hard to follow stories about persons you don't really know. But the essence is loving exchange. So now go back to the beginning point. Radha is the pleasure potency feature of Krishna's spiritual energies. He has his eternality aspect, his knowledge aspect, and his pleasure aspect, and she's the personification of his pleasure potency. And they're always enjoying wonderful pastimes together. However, sometimes there's some complication, which makes the pastime even nicer. It's not always smooth, it's sometimes bumpy, and it's fine because they're just enjoying together. Krishna's enjoying his pleasure potencies, and she's enjoying being with Krishna. And in other words, the pastimes are all transcendental and very sweet and very attractive. So because Radharani's appearance day is next week, Saturday, right? Next week, Saturday. So you may have some opportunity. You can find some of these pastimes directly in Krishna book, but she's not mentioned by name. But you can look at the chapter 35. That's a nice place to go. Chapter 35 from Krishna book, or 10th canto, chapter 35. And the gopis' appreciation for Krishna as he's going into the forest with the cows each day. Very nice chapter. Very sweet. Chapter 35. And we'll continue with a little bit more organization tomorrow night. And you can hear online if you're not able to come in person. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, devotees. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the class. For those of you who are not aware of what was going on here, for the past few days, His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj has been giving classes on this topic of Srimati Radharani. Today's was the 6th class, and all the other classes are available online. So this is all in preparation for anticipating the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, the Supreme Lord Krishna's internal spiritual potency. Now, I just wanted to take a minute to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you and the extended congregation for your wholehearted participation in last weekend's Janmashtami. As some of you may already know, Friday, Janmashtami Day, we had more than about 7,000 or 8,000 people here. And on 21st, we had more than 10,000 people. It could not have been done. We could not have served them without all your wholehearted support. And we really, really thank you. More than 400 volunteers from the extended community, along with all the devotees in this community, actively participated, and we are extremely grateful. So, having said that, for so many weeks now, I have taken a little extra time to appreciate one devotee during the Sunday feast announcements, because as I mentioned just now, there are unlimited number of devotees serving in this community, and many of them nobody even knows. So today I'm going to introduce you to Priyanka Karnati. Is Priyanka here? Can you please come? Priyanka is a wonderful devotee. I'm sure nobody even paid any attention to her because she's so quiet and she wants to always stay in the background. She came into Krishna consciousness in the year 2011. She and her husband went to Sri Kishore Kishori temple, And 2013, they moved to Naperville. By profession, she's an electrical engineer. And she worked in India. She came here. She has 2 little boys. And her husband is Madhukar Karnadi. 1 boy and 1 girl? I don't know why I thought it was 2 boys. Okay. In any case, her husband is Madhukar. And all of you know how hard he works in the kitchen every single Sunday, washing pots and pans, non-stop. So, Priyanka, I discovered some things about her today, that her passion is in cooking for Krishna and preparing garlands for the deities. She makes Raj Bhog sweets. She makes festival sweets. She does garland making. She helped in the cultural team lead during Janmashtami. She made all the certificates. And as I said, she loved to cook for Krishna and loved to work in the background rather than forefront. Now, one other important thing is all these years she has been preparing to take shelter of a spiritual master. And she expressed to me that this is very important for her at this stage of her life. She's taking her spiritual life very seriously and very soon anticipating to take shelter and get spiritual guidance. So please give a big hand to Priyanka. So last week there was a person, Rajendran, who sponsored feast, I think during Janmashtami day. Is he here today? No. Okay. Today's Sunday feast is sponsored by Nirandhara Das Prabhu. You can give it to him. Nirandhara Das Prabhu's mother passed away. His mother passed away, 103-year-old, recently. And we are seeking all of your prayers for the onward journey of the departed soul. So please chant after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So whether we are celebrating something or praying for the departed souls, we always keep Krishna in the center. And if anybody would like to celebrate or pray for someone, whatever that you like to do, please contact Abhay Prabhu or Ramdas Prabhu. Once again, thank you all for everything that you have done during this hectic weekend. I have two more announcements. One is Radhashtami is September 3rd. The program begins at 4:30 and it will end by 7 and prasadam will be served at that time. And there is one more announcement, which is the Sunday Feast cooking team. Today it was Mohan Leela Prabhu and the Sunday school children who did the cooking. Please give them a big hand. And cleaning team is Krishna Murari Prabhu, Krishna Podilla Prabhu, Bhuvan, Savyasachi, Ramdas, and Nitin Prabhus. And serving is Tejash, and pantry Umesh, and grocery Srikant, and shopping Umesh Prabhu. Please give them a big hand. And Priyanka and Megha are here. Anyone would like to join our volunteer group, please contact them. You can show your hands. So, thank you. Thank you all. Prasadam is to-go boxes today, I think, because of the rain.